Senior political analyst for the RAND Corporation, and it's good to have you back. Okay, if we look at the immediate response, the EU, well, Britain, France and Germany, they've announced that from Tuesday there will be this, what they call a blocking statute, which attempts to protect European firms doing business with Iran from being hit by secondary US sanctions. So as everyone has predicted, Washington now seems to be isolated from traditional partners, traditional allies, and Iran looks like they're the ones abiding by international law.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a decision that has isolated the U.S. It's moving Iran closer to China, probably Russia. The EU blocking sanctions, you know, signal a governmental attempt to push back against these sanctions. It's not clear what effect they will really have in reality. European firms, unfortunately, are already leaving Iran, so this will have a devastating effect. I think China's going to be the big wild card here in terms of Iran's ability to muddle through.
In what way? China's support? If China decides...
China's trade, yeah. I think China's Iran's largest trading partner. China has already indicated it will not abide by these sanctions. Again, the entire international community and all the signatories to this agreement believe Iran is in compliance. So unless it's a UN-mandated sanctions regime, they are not going to be back on board. So the U.S. will be alone.
Okay, so after warning the United States, Iran's President Hassan Rouhani later said he would actually be open, kind of, for talks with Washington. This is what he said.
That turned their back on dialogue and negotiations was Mr. Trump and Mr. Trump's administration. And this is against the nation of Iran and the national interests of Iran. So if there is sincerity, Iran has always welcomed dialogue and negotiations.
Yeah, it was very qualified. If there's sincerity, we've always welcomed, you know. But I'm just curious, is the economy in such bad shape that there may be enough pressure that from just these sanctions alone from the US, you know, for Rouhani, and does he speak for the entire government? What about the hardliners? But are they actually seriously willing to sit down and talk with the US?
Well, there's no question there's tremendous domestic pressure, as your piece just showed. Whether this is enough to get the Iranians back to the table is unclear. And again, Rouhani does not speak for the entire Iranian government. The supreme leader will be critical. And frankly, the Iranians do have the upper hand in terms of telling their people it was the U.S. that backed out. We sat in negotiations with the U.S. and the rest of the West and the international community for 2 years, and we came up with a deal. This is not our fault, but they are under pressure. It's just unclear what would the United States be able to give Iran. They would be very worried about looking weak internally. So I'm very skeptical that there's going to be some big grand bargain. It's a lot easier to break things than to build them back.
Yeah, they're not looking, though, what happened in North Korea, that Singapore summit when Trump met Kim Jong-un, and Kim essentially walked away with, you know, everything he wanted and a bag of chips, and the US didn't get a whole lot in return. Are they thinking, well, maybe we can strike a similar deal?
Possibly, except the difference here is you already had a deal. And so they're unlikely to take less than what they got before, and the administration is unlikely to take less than what was already on the table, and they want significantly more. And there was an opportunity to build on the deal with the European allies before. I think that opportunity's gone. So I think we're in a tough road ahead where we're likely to see more confrontation than big symmetry.
Yeah, to your point, here's the response from the National Security Advisor, John Bolton, on that offer of possibly sitting down and talking with the Iranians. Here he is.
I think President Trump has been consistent since his days on the campaign trail that he would sit down and negotiate with Kim Jong-un, with the Ayatollahs in Tehran. That's his approach to diplomacy, and he's, as I say, been consistent on it. So if the Iranians are really willing to come and talk about all of their malign behavior in the region and around the world, I think they'd find the president willing to do it. But once again, this is a question less of what their propaganda is and what their real intentions are.
It sounds like he's already imposing conditions if they're willing to talk about all of their malign behavior, not just the nuclear agreement, because they say this is what the Trump administration is looking for. But the criticism here is that what the administration has effectively done is that they found a solution to a problem which didn't really exist in the first place.
Yeah, there was no problem. There was, in fact, 11 times the Atomic Energy Agency has verified Iranian compliance with the deal. So we are creating a problem that we did not have. I think this statement is very similar to the Rouhani statement, interestingly, where both sides are posturing, trying to make sure they're not looked at as the bad guy and, you know, scuttling this situation. But the conditions are already clear in that statement. Rouhani already suggesting conditions of, well, sanctions would have to be lifted. Otherwise, it would be hard to proceed. And the U.S. side saying basically, yeah, they have to stop all the bad behavior, be what Secretary of State Pompeo often says, a normal country. And he's also listed a number of conditions that would have to be in place for the United States to sit at the table. We'll see. There's, the world is full of surprises right now. There's the UN General Assembly in September. There could be an opportunity for a surprise. But the question is, for what end?
Yeah, exactly.
Not clear.
Talks just for talks, I guess,
Yeah.
don't really go anywhere at the end of the day. Dahlia, thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Donald Trump's advisors want him to stop tweeting about his son's 2016 meeting with